All right, let's unpack this. We're diving deep today into a book that honestly has challenged how millions think about money.
Yeah, it really has.
Our source is Robert T. Kiyosaki's hugely influential Rich Dad, Poor Dad. It first came out, back in 1997?
That's right, 97. And it's this interesting mix, isn't it? Part personal finance, part self-help, part memoir even.
Exactly. It's kind of semi-autobiographical, but packed with these educational bits. So our mission here is to pull out those core ideas, maybe some surprising facts that make people say it's a must-read for financial beginners.
And the starting point, the thing that grabs you right away, is that central idea. The contrast between these two father figures, two totally different financial mindsets.
Yeah, the poor dad versus the rich dad.
Right. So poor dad, that's Kiyosaki's actual father, highly educated guy, professor, believed in the standard path, good education, get a safe job, work hard for your salary.
The traditional route.
The traditional route. Then you've got Rich Dad, who was his best friend's father, an entrepreneur, became wealthy, and really championed, well, financial education, learning how money really works and building assets.
And that core message really defines the whole book. The poor and middle class work for money. The rich have money work for them. It's pretty provocative.
It is. It immediately makes you think, okay, which side of that equation am I on right now?
But, I mean, does he adequately address the reality for someone who just has to work for money, like day-to-day survival?
That's a really fair question. I don't think he's saying, everyone should just quit their job tomorrow. It's more about shifting your mindset while you're in that reality.
Okay, so it's not just theory.
No, not at all. He argues you can start building assets, learning about money, even while you're working that 9 to 5. The book tries to break down how to start thinking differently through these key lessons.
Okay, so let's jump into the first big one. He hits this early on, chapters 1 and 2. The rich don't work for money. What's that really about?
Well, it's not literally just quit your job. It's more fundamental. It's about shifting from being like an employee of money to becoming its employer.
Okay.
He digs into why people make the financial choices they do. And he says it often comes down to two basic emotions: fear and greed, or desire maybe.
Fear of not having enough, desire for more.
Exactly. And financial literacy, understanding how money works, is the tool to manage those emotions rather than be driven by them. So stop chasing the paycheck as the only goal and start learning the game itself.
Right, and that's where the financial literacy piece is just critical, isn't it? Because it's not just about how much you earn
No, it's about how much you keep.
and what you do with what you keep. That's the key.
Hmm.
Building assets, cutting down liabilities, that seems central.
Absolutely crucial. Which flows right into his next lesson, lesson 2, mind your own business.
Which sounds like, stay out of other people's affairs, but that's not what he means, is it?
No, not in this context. For Kiyosaki, minding your own business means actively building up your own asset column, focusing on your financial foundation.
Okay.
And he makes this really clear, simple distinction. Assets, they put money into your pocket. Liabilities, they take money out. Simple as that.
And that definition really flips the script for a lot of common financial thinking, right?
Totally.
These examples. Assets are things like income-producing real estate, stocks, intellectual property like royalties, maybe a business you own that doesn't require your constant presence,
Right. Things that generate cash flow.
and liabilities. Well, the
Mhm.
fancy car, credit card debt, and controversially, even your own house if it's just costing you money each month and not bringing any in.
Exactly. That house example is often a big shocker for people. You think it's your biggest asset. But if it's primarily draining cash for mortgage, taxes, upkeep, Kiyosaki frames it as a liability in terms of cash flow.
It makes you really reevaluate.
It does. And it ties into his view that traditional job security isn't really secure at all. It's kind of an illusion.
So he's pushing for proactivity.
Yeah, be proactive. Take control.
Yeah.
Build your own things. Businesses, investments don't just rely on a salary from someone else's business. It's about financial agency.
Okay, let's move to lesson 3. This one feels a bit more controversial, maybe. The power of corporations and this idea of inventing money. He talks about how the rich use corporations to legally minimize taxes. That understanding tax law gives you a huge leg up.
Yeah, this is a big one. He points out that the tax code often favors businesses and investors over employees. Things like deducting legitimate business expenses before paying tax, unlike an employee whose tax is taken out first.
So knowing the rules of the game is crucial.
Absolutely. It highlights how financial education isn't just about earning, but about structuring things smartly. And then there's that phrase, The rich invent money.
Which sounds a bit fantastical.
It does, but it's not about putting cash in the basement. It's more metaphorical. The insight is that wealth isn't always just earned through labor. It's often created by seeing an opportunity and putting resources together, maybe knowledge, maybe capital, maybe connections in a new way.
So spotting value where others don't.
Exactly, like finding a rundown property and fixing it up, or structuring a deal that benefits everyone involved, or creating something new. It's about financial creativity and recognizing opportunities. It's very entrepreneurial.
Got it. That leads kind of nicely into lesson 4. Work to learn, not just for money.
Right. This one challenges that idea of deep specialization being the only path.
Yeah, like instead of just being the best accountant, maybe learn about sales or communication or investing itself.
Precisely. Kiyosaki argues for broadening your skill set. Learn a little about a lot of things, especially skills that help you build a business or manage investments. Sales, marketing, understanding people, basic accounting, investing.
So versatility over deep specialization.
To an extent, yes. Or at least, don't let specialization blind you to the bigger picture of how business and money work. He emphasizes that the ability to learn quickly and adapt is maybe more valuable long-term than just having one secure-looking skill.
Yeah, it goes back to that theme: schools teach you how to work for money, but not how to manage it or make it work for you.
Exactly. You need to learn to read financial statements, understand debt, investing. That education is largely on you, according to the book.
Okay, and the final big lesson area, lesson 5, is about mindset again. Overcoming obstacles and embracing calculated risk.
Yeah, this is huge. He lists these 5 main things that hold people back financially. Do you remember them? Fear.
Fear, cynicism, laziness, bad habits,
Yeah,
and arrogance.
that's them.
Fear, cynicism, laziness, bad habits, and arrogance.
Oh.
And he argues that overcoming these internal obstacles is just as important, maybe more important, than the technical know-how.
The fear part seems key. He says fear of losing money keeps people poor. Right. He contrasts that with how the rich dad approaches risk, not recklessly, but taking calculated risks, understanding the potential downside, managing it, but not letting the fear paralyze you.
So failure isn't the end.
No, failure is often part of the process. You learn from it, adjust, persist. It's a very different view of failure and risk than, the traditional play it safe mentality. It can feel really counterintuitive.
And he connects this to kids too, right? The advice to start early.
Teach kids about money young. Let them make small mistakes, maybe with allowance or a small venture, so they learn those lessons early and build financial resilience.
It's about building that different relationship with risk and learning.
Yeah, seeing learning as this continuous journey.
Okay, so clearly the book has struck a chord. Why do you think it resonates so much? What are its main strengths?
Well, first off, the language. It's incredibly simple and relatable. Very little financial jargon.
That's a huge plus for beginners,
Right.
definitely.
And the storytelling format, using the 2 dads, it just makes the concept stick. It's engaging, not like a dry textbook.
Agreed. And it's definitely not afraid to challenge conventional wisdom, is it? It pushes you to think for yourself about money, work, education.
Absolutely. And while some criticize the specifics, it does offer actionable foundational advice, especially around that mindset shift. Get your head right first, understand assets versus liabilities. That's powerful stuff for someone starting out.
But we should look at the other side too. What are the common criticisms? Because it's not without them.
No, definitely not. A big one is the lack of specific steps. It's very motivational, gets you thinking, but people often finish it asking, okay, but what exactly do I invest in? How do I analyze a property deal? It's vague on the how-to.
Right. It doesn't give you a detailed investment plan.
Not at all. Which you could argue is okay for a foundational book. Its job is the mindset shift.
True. What else?
Then there's the questionable authenticity around Rich Dad himself. Kiyosaki has been, let's say, coy about whether Rich Dad was one real person, a composite, or even entirely metaphorical.
Does that matter, though, if the lessons are sound?
That's the debate, isn't it? For some, it undermines the credibility if the central story isn't strictly factual. For others, it's an educational parable, and the literal truth is less important than the message.
Interesting. Any other major criticisms?
Well, related to the vagueness, there's the risk encouragement without guardrails. It champions taking risks, which is key to wealth building, but some critics feel it doesn't sufficiently emphasize how to analyze and manage that risk, especially for novices.
So someone might jump into something too risky without really understanding it.
That's the concern, confusing calculated risk with just gambling. And finally, it's just. It's not a technical finance book. If you want deep dives into budgeting software, index fund analysis, or tax code intricacies, this isn't it.
It's more philosophy than mechanics.
Good way to put it, yeah.
Okay, so taking all that into account, the strengths, the weaknesses, who should actually pick up this book? Who is it really for?
Based on what we've discussed, I'd say it's definitely recommended for absolute beginners in personal finance. Anyone feeling lost about where to even start?
Teenagers, young adults, maybe?
Absolutely. Teenagers, young adults. Also, anyone feeling kind of stuck in that traditional 9 to 5 grind and wondering if there's another way?
Aspiring entrepreneurs or investors?
Yes, the mindset shift is very relevant for them. And parents, too. Parents looking for ways to talk to their kids about money in a different way than perhaps they were taught.
And who is it maybe not the best fit for?
Probably not ideal if you're looking for those specific technical investment strategies we talked about. If you want formulas and step-by-step guides.
People who prefer hard data over stories.
Yeah, if you prefer dense, data-driven analysis, the narrative style might not appeal. And experienced financial professionals likely won't find much new tactical information here. It's pretty foundational.
So wrapping up, Rich Dad, Poor Dad isn't really just about dollars and cents, is it?
Not fundamentally, no. It's really a mindset guide.
Yeah, it invites you to think differently about your job, about wealth, about what education really matters. It pushes you towards being more proactive, focusing on building those assets.
It really is a foundational read for beginners or anyone curious about financial independence and maybe understanding how wealthy people often approach things differently. It definitely starts conversations.
It certainly does. So here's something to think about as we finish. Given that the book emphasizes calculated risk and learning, what's maybe one financial belief you inherited, maybe from your own Poor Dad perspective, that you could challenge this week?
That's a good question.
And following on from that, what's one small, intentional Rich Dad action? Maybe learning something new, analyzing an expense, thinking about an asset you could take instead. Lots to mull over.
Definitely food for thought.